It's been a long time since we've heard that music, huh, guys?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Hey, this is Crimson with Mediocre Gamers, and I'm here with the rest of the mediocre guys. Uh, Most of us have just gotten back from a pre-release event to play Magic the Gathering, the newest set called Ravnica Allegiances, I believe. I keep wanting to call it Alliances. I don't know why, because Alliances was awesome, right? Uh, so I'm just going to go around the table. I have Caleb here. Caleb, if you just want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Caleb, and I am also a mediocre gamer. You might
And,
remember me from such movies as, well, none.
and a co-founder. Uh, Next we have RJ.
Why, why, hello there. I'm RJ. I'm also a mediocre gamer. One of the founders way back, and yeah, just getting back into it.
Man, it's been a while since we've heard that sexy voice, huh, guys?
Oh man,
Wow.
woo!
Oh,
Fanning myself.
swoon.
And
Uh-uh-uh.
our newest member to the group here on this round table, we have Dakota.
Hello. I am also a very mediocre gamer, especially when it comes to Magic, and you may remember me from about 10 seconds of one of the earliest podcasts where I gushed about some Baratheon cards.
Our very first episode. You were on our
Mhm.
very first episode. So we're definitely gonna have to change that up. It sounded like we were standing up for a fucking AA meeting.
Hey, it's the first time back. We have literally 100 new people,
Everyone is rusty today.
Pretty
We
much.
also came back from pre-releases, so everybody's taxed. But oh my god, it literally sounded like we were confessing to something.
Oh, we
Yep.
were. We
Oh, we
were.
are.
I'm going to let Caleb go over since, for the most part, you three were together. I just did something on my own because I live a couple hours away from you guys. So, really, go take Caleb. Tell us what happened at your guys' event.
So event one was, I mean, pretty standard. I was already kind of on tilt because I was Simic first, and I didn't know which one I was because RJ signed me up for it. So I had Simic for event one and Orzhov for event two. And immediately after opening my pack, I was like, this is not going to go well. I didn't have good stuff. We had a huge turnout, which kind of has a double-edged sword. Like, you get some of the newer people, you get some people who come out just for pre-releases, and then you get a bunch of the pros and wannabe pros. Luckily, we didn't, I don't think, run into too many of them. It felt like it was a very casual atmosphere, which is kind of rare for these sorts of events in our area. But we had a really good showing. I think we had 40 people for the first event and 30 something for the second.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that sounds about right.
yeah, like it was a solid showing for it. We didn't have anybody else with us. It was just the three of us from our crew, which was totally fine. We had fun, but I was playing Simic for the first event. Pulled kind of terrible stuff. Turns out Sharkdo Crab is MVP. Won me
Yep.
so many games.
It,
Um,
it looks like a
the
good card.
It's so good. It won me way too many games. The real crazy story though that I have for actually the whole event, my favorite play of the entire thing was um that I went up against a Rakdos deck in round 3 and I went 1-1 and I'm like, okay, if I have any chance of getting any packs, I have to go full ham on this dude. And he sits down playing freaking Rakdos, and I'm like, I think I'm screwed. Like, I think he's got me.
Rakdos is strong.
It is so strong, and I'm so happy to see that they're not just a freaking gimmick like they used to be. Like, they are just legit strong and solid.
Yeah,
And,
Rakdos and Gruul.
oh yeah, I agree. And, oh god, freaking Gruul. So
Or
Game 1 was against Orzhov. Game 2 was against Orzhov. Game 3 was Rakdos. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. So he crushes me game 1, just freaking trashes me. I die to the stupid Shade, the 1 for a 1/1 lifelink. You pay 3 to give him +1/+1. Yeah, that killed me, by the way.
Dude, that is an expensive activation, too.
It is. The thing is that he had like 2 other dudes, and he was just keeping his life total up just enough to where he could outrace me. That's all that thing did for him. It was so damn irritating.
And there's a ton of Death Touch in Rakdos right now, too.
There is. Especially even that little instant. Give a creature Death Touch and draw a card. Like,
yeah.
It's so strong. So he crushes me. Game 2, it comes down to, I've got Sharkdo Crab out with 4 mana up. He drops Rakdos on an empty field, so it's just Rakdos, Sharkdo Crab. It's like, yeah, all right, this is going to go real bad. So I go, I'm pretty sure, because he grabs his dice and he gets ready to roll, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that I have an a window here to where I can adapt. And he's like, you can't. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that I can.
Yeah, because that trigger goes on the stack.
Yep. But I wasn't quite sure if he hits the field first, or if the whole thing is on the stack. So I call a judge over. First time I've ever called a judge over.
Yeah, because I believe it says when he comes into play.
It is when he comes into play. So basically, for every non-demon imp, whatever, he gets to flip a coin, roll a die, whatever. And for every tails, that creature dies. And so he drops that, he has a 50-50 chance to kill my Sharkdo Crab, and then I am now on the back foot. Like, okay, this is bad. So I call a judge over, and I ask him, I say, can I adapt once he hits the field, but before he flips the coins? And he goes, yes. And I'm like, great, pay 4, tap that shithead. And he's like, all right. So he rolls his dice, he gets a 1, which is tails, quote unquote. It's cocked on my playmat. And he's like, do you want me to re-roll that? And I'm like, I want you to re-roll that.
Yes.
And it is a cocked die. And he's like, okay. And he rolls into a 2. And my Sharkdo Crab lives. So, goes into my turn, and I'm pretty sure I smack him in the face. And do something else. Something happens. I can't quite remember the exact chain of events. But I end up going Electro Dominance for 6, I think.
So
I think that's
good.
what it was. I go Electro Dominance to the face for 6, and I play the 4-drop Riot Menace 2/2 as my free card, give him haste, swing for 7 with Sharkdo Crab and him for game.
Nice. Dude,
Crushed him.
Electro Dominance is a bomb in Limited.
It is. It is so strong. But that wasn't even the best play. It's in the same match, though. So that's what happened when he dropped Rakdos the first time. Game 3, I had the best play in any tournament I have ever played in besides one Game of Thrones tournament. This was the best play I've ever had in Magic by far. We get into turn 6. I have Sharkdo Crab out again. I do not have 4 mana untapped. I have 3 mana untapped, or 2 mana untapped.
What does Sharkdo Crab? What does he exactly say for the people listening?
Okay, he is 2 generic, a blue and a green, for a 4/4, with adapt 1 for at the cost of 2, a blue and a green. So basically, his mana cost, he gets a +1/+1 counter. His effect is when 1 or more +1/+1 counters are placed on him, you may tap target creature, and it does not untap during their controller's next untap step.
That's so good. So it doesn't have to come from the adapt.
Correct. So what happened was I could not adapt on this turn. He drops Rakdos. He has the 0/2 spear flinger dude, the tap to deal a damage to everybody, and some other guy. I think another Shade. So he drops Rakdos, and I'm like, okay, let's see what happens here. Let's see if this is going to be it. So he drops Rakdos. He goes, I'm going to roll for my side first. He rolls, kills his own dude. Rolls, kills his own dude. Rolls for my Sharkdo Crab. 6. Sharkdo Crab lives again. I'm like, okay. I have active treason in my hand. So he goes past turn. I go untap, draw, play my 7th land, pay 3, active treason his Rakdos, Tenya in the face. And he's like, holy crap, okay. Past turn, goes to him. I have 4 mana untapped still. He goes, draw, move to combat, pay 4, adapt, tap Rakdos down. It's like, okay, I'll pay 4 and crack my Cluestone. I've got 1 mana open. Okay. Untap, draw, active treason, 11 game.
Wow.
Yep.
Killed him with his own freaking Rakdos.
Wow.
Literally, active treason, Tenya, active treason, 11
That's how you do it, man. That's how you do it.
He was baffled. He's like, because at the end of his turn, when he had 1 mountain untapped, he goes, past turn, I said, GG, sir. And he goes, you don't have another. And I would go, active treason? He's like, you've got to be kidding me. You have 2 of them? I'm like, yup. And he goes, back to back? Yup. 11. Hands down best. Oh my god, it felt so good. Because otherwise he would have crushed me.
So that was your first match. What about
That was my 3rd match in the first event.
Yeah, I mean the first event.
Yeah. Yep.
So that seems pretty fun. Now, you said you were unhappy with Simic, just in
I
general.
was very unhappy with Simic. In Limited, they felt very clunky. It felt very slow, especially compared to all these other decks that were very synergistic. Like, Orzhov was kicking the crap out of me all day. Just, they have such good synergies. Rakdos, Gruul, they're great. Simic just doesn't feel fast enough.
Is it the adapt part, because the adapt does take extra time, extra mana, or was it just the cards in general?
I think the cards that I pulled were not terribly great. Like, I had an okay pull, but I actually pulled a ton of Gruul, and that's why I pulled a Domri. And I'm like, I think I splash red, and it ended up being more Gruul than Simic. Like, I had more... I had more red cards in than blue, but I still had some really good blue stuff. So it was Temur. Like, it was red, blue, green, and it worked okay. Like, I went 2-1 with it, but I cannot recommend Simic for this pre-release or a sealed event, because it depends so hard on you getting very specific cards, where a lot of the other factions are like, everything works well together, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to the second event here in a little bit. RJ, how did you feel with yours, and what guild did you get, and how did you feel about your cards, your mechanics, and some of your matches?
So my first event, I picked Orzhov.
Good choice.
And I'm thinking, okay, we have the Orzhov keyword is Afterlife, and it's usually Afterlife X. When this creature dies, you create X 1/1 white and black spirit tokens with flying. We also had spoiled many cards that kind of have, they had solid removal, but Orzhov also got a pretty baller board wipe. Kaya's Wrath, which is double white, double black, destroy all creatures. But when you do an effect like that, you get your Afterlife tokens after the fact. Haha, got there, team.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, bad jokes all around. But Afterlife also synergizes really well with a lot of their other cards that they have access to. There's like a 2/2 cleric that you can pay 1, sacrifice a creature to give it lifelink and death touch. No, I'm sorry, death touch and indestructible. And then other cards that sacrifice as an additional cost, sacrifice your own creature. So like Caleb said, there's a lot of synergy there, and I felt going into it, Orzhov was pretty strong, so I went with that. I think one of my largest saving graces was pulling the six. There's a 6 costing enchantment out of my seeded pack. It is called Ethereal Absolution. 4 colorless, white and a black. Enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. 2 colorless, white and a black. Exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. If it was a creature, you create a 1/1 black and white spirit token.
Fuck that card. Fuck it.
Yep.
I very think that card is a good sleeper.
I think so too. I saw it in 2 of my 3 rounds, and it did work. It kept chump blockers on the table. It kept just feeding my strategy, and it was definitely on the day. It was definitely my MVP in my Orzhov deck. But I had a huge problem against Gruul and some Simic stuff because their creatures, and usually anything with Riot, comes into play. They usually put the +1/+1 counter on them and make them really, really big. And big creatures are kind of hard for Orzhov creatures to trade with because you usually have a bunch of 1/1 or 2/2 spirits, and those are you usually have to 2-for-1 on the trade, which is not favorable. But you could also. I did have some premium removal, but that can only get you so far. I had 3 of those grotesque demise where you exile a creature with power 3 or less, which doesn't really help you when they have 4/4s and above. I did have a Mortify and a couple other things I'm not thinking of right now. So I had some premium removal to keep me in there, but alas, I ended up going 1-2 in my first event. So I think and I don't really have too many plays that I think weren't as flashy as Caleb's. I was just kind of working the mechanic and going from there. But I will agree with Caleb. It doesn't really matter what afterlife card you have. It's a really good ability, and if you can just find the synergies with it, you can kind of put whatever card with afterlife in there that suits your needs. Orzhov has a lot of really aggressive 2-cost and 3-cost guys with afterlife 1 or 2, so you're going to get some good value and some good trades and just kind of keep the tempo going there. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a summary of my thought process and kind of what I was able to cobble together with Orzhov for my first round.
Nice. It sounds like Orzhov had really good synergies with it. Obviously, if you don't get a lot of the removal, you run out, and I could definitely see some issues with that. But you just got to hope that you can get their bombs before they can get more bombs.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my second round match, I had to unfortunately mull to 5 because you can't keep a 1-lane hand when you get it multiple times. So and that's exactly how that game played out. He played a creature that was like, all right, you're large enough that I need to deal with. Use a piece of removal. He's like, all right, next turn, another threat, piece of removal. Another threat, and the next turn, piece of removal. Another threat, another piece of removal, another threat.
I'm out.
All right, I got nothing. Come at me, bro. You got me.
Sounds like you had fun, though, right?
Yeah, I definitely did. And I think we may talk about kind of our thoughts in general, seeing a bunch of cards and a bunch of stuff like that after we chat about round 2. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Dakota, what did you pick, and how did it fare for you?
So going into today, I am a pretty big scrub, noob in the Magic, just sort of community and whatnot. And going in, I was really interested in either Orzhov or Gruul, but by the time I got there, both had been sold out. So I ended up going with Simic, and I pretty well agree with everything Caleb said about it. If you can pull those really big, key, crucial cards with Simic, then it's pretty good. Unfortunately, also like Caleb, I didn't pull any of them. And
Yup. I feel that pain, bro.
mm-hmm, the the biggest card that I drew was a Sharktocrab. I think it may have had the highest toughness and strength of all the cards that I had. Um, so that was interesting. But I did get a Biomancer's Familiar and a Wilderness Reclamation,
Both of
and
those
ended up.
cards are in my top of this set.
Oh, I agree. They were some of my favorite cards of the day, and I ended up splashing some white in there and had this sort of convoluted combo that I tried to go for every game with 10th District Veteran. So, uh, for those of you who are also new like me, the Biomancer makes your triggered abilities for creatures that you control cost 2 generic mana less, and then you can also tap him to basically uh, whenever you try to adapt. Whenever you go to adapt, you treat the card as though it doesn't have any 1/1 counters on it, letting you, rather than putting that one-time restriction on adaptation, you can just do it over and over as long as you can tap him. There is a white card that, let me 10th District Veteran, which has Vigilance, and whenever it attacks, you can untap another target creature you control. So, I had this just sort of crazy idea of using the Biomancer's Familiar to adapt something that had already adapted, and then attacking with the Veteran, untapping the Familiar, and then being able to adapt it again. Combine that with Wilderness Reclamation. At the end of your turn, all of your lands untap, and just being able to constantly grow and build just these little chuds into massive sort of threats on the board.
No, it seems like a good combo.
Yeah, and I think I saw it all of twice throughout the 9 or 10 games, or 9 or 10, 5 or 6 games that I ended up playing in. And the biggest thing that I got was what was it? Like a 9/9 Pteramander. With, unfortunately, right after that, it got what is it? The enchantment that prevents you from attacking or defending or using abilities.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yep, the pacifism.
mm-hmm. So, big dude sitting there, didn't get any removal for enchantments. But yeah, just to be able to pull it off at least once was pretty fun. But I got pretty well stomped by Gruul and Orzhov in those first few matches.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Gruul can be a beast.
Oh my god.
All right. Well, did you have fun?
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. And getting to see all the different styles of play and just to see new cards and how they interact, and getting to play with people who I don't, well, just getting to see new play styles that don't really ever get to see was also really fun too.
Sweet. I'll talk a little bit about what I did. I'm pretty much iced in, so I decided not to go to a physical pre-release and decided to do a sealed event on Magic Arena.
Good idea, because we almost died.
Yeah, no, I would have died. Yeah, there's too much ice out there. And so in the sealed event on Magic Arena, which by the way you guys can definitely check out on the YouTube channel, I did record it, had a blast playing it. You don't get a seeded pack with because it's a standard sealed, not a technically a pre-release, so there's no seeded pack. But it sure fucking felt like one. Holy crap. So out of my 6 packs, I pulled the jellyfish, the Kratos or whatever. I pulled an ooze, the one that spawns more oozes over and over and over, and gives all the other oozes +1/+1. And I pulled the Merfolk lady who has adapt and draws a card when other creatures have +1/+1 when she comes into play, and then all +1/+1 counters on creatures give trample. And I did end up going 4 and 3, which is very average, but I'm a terrible limited player, like bad. So 4 and 3 is really good for me. And some of the it was fun. There's definitely some interesting combos. I did also get one of those salamander drakey things, and it was really good. I ended up going Bant because I got a Gate Colossus and the Gate Angel. I think that was that one. No, I think that was the other event. God, there's so many events. It's hard to keep them in track. But I did go Bant because the other rare that I got was the Detention Spear guy. Not very good in limited because not many things have the same name, but still can get rid of an enchantment, can get rid of a creature. The decks that I had the hardest amount of time with were Gruul decks or Jund decks. Those decks, I just couldn't sustain against them. And I don't know if you guys felt that same way. It sounds like you guys did. I definitely, if I had it to do again, I'd probably go Gruul or Rakdos.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I won't give away like what really happened in our second event, but Gruul definitely was a problem for me. They're just so oppressive, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it other than try to outrace them.
Yeah. Speaking of that second event, let's start it off with you again, Caleb.
Second event was fine. Like, I went undefeated, which was
What did
great.
you choose?
I chose Orzhov.
Nice.
like that's what I wanted all along. And so kind of a funny story. Hopefully metagames won't ban us for this. Not they won't. They don't care. They don't give two shits, which is great in this aspect. But so not to give away what Dakota chose, but he did get to choose Orzhov for the second event. So I did go and grab all of our kits and come back. And so one of them was kind of a little bit bent. Like, it was noticeable which kit was which. One of them had kind of a bend to it. And I was like, well, I kind of, I should probably go ahead and take this one. Like, it's whatever. But I was like, I think I want this other one. Like, I feel good about it. So we sit down, me and Dakota are facing each other across the table. I crack mine open and pull out the seeded pack, and it's freaking Font of Agonies. Probably the worst sealed card possible. And he opens his seeded pack is the freaking Seraph of Scales. And I was like, oh my god, are you kidding me? What? Like, I was seconds away from choosing that kit instead. And so we're sitting there and I'm like, damn it. And me and Dakota kind of look at each other and we're like, you want to switch? And it's like, I don't know, do you?
Yep.
Yeah, I really want that angel. So, I mean, we didn't open anything else. It was literally, we saw what the seeded card, or the promo was, and that was it. So we swapped, and then I started to feel bad. And I got the nuts out of that pack.
And I will say, since none of it was opened, you just saw the promo card.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big deal. Now,
it's not.
Granted, if this was a level 5 sanctioned in your, pre-whatever, freaking Magic League event, pre-releases are not considered those, so whatever.
Yeah. And I would never go to an event like that because I have a life.
Yeah.
Um,
Your sleeves are opaque, or aren't opaque, or are too
You're-
opaque, or
Not only are you disqualified, but you are banned and you may never ever play Magic again.
you
You are being exiled from this continent. You are going to a deserted island where magic doesn't exist because your sleeves were clear.
and it's not Watsy's fault. A lot of it is, it comes down to the fact that pro players kind of suck.
Yeah, they
And
do.
You have to have these rules, or else they would bend everything possible.
Oh,
And
yeah.
most of these aren't ran by Watsy anyways. They're just ran by judges who can be dicks themselves.
Oh, yeah. Luckily, we didn't have that problem. But yeah, we ended up swapping, and I mean, I got everything that I could have asked for. Like, I didn't get a Kaya's Wrath or a Teysa or anything like that, but I did obviously get the Seraph. I got 4 goddamn oligarchs.
Dude, that's a good card.
Yeah, it's 1 black, 1 white for a 2/1 vigilance with Afterlife 1. So it's just solid, it's early game, it fuels you, it's synergy for the deck. I got 4 of them. I got a freaking playset in sealed. I got 2 of the Vizkopa Vampires, which is the 3/1 lifelink for 3. I mean, I ended up getting so much removal that I had to cut removal because it was too much.
How is that vampire? I'm not sure about it yet.
You know, he kept me alive a couple of games, but he's not great. Like,
Okay.
I could definitely see him if you get him in sealed, he's good. Because at the very worst case, he's gonna block,
But not a
soak
top
up some
draft
damage.
pick.
No, not even close. He'll block some damage and gain you some life back.
Yeah,
That's it.
His biggest thing is, he's a 3/1, so you want to trade up with him, and he does trade up very well. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Problem is that he's not great as an attacker because they almost always have something smaller.
Yeah,
But
it
as a
feels
blocker,
like you don't get the good trades with him on attack.
yeah,
yeah,
no, definitely not.
That
No,
life
and
link
on
is so good.
oh yeah. Now on an empty field, he's great. But what isn't, right? I got Mortify, I got the 1 white, 1 black instant. You have to pay 5 life or sack a creature enchantment to destroy target creature. Punishment, I think. But I got those 2. I got 2 of the exile target creature with power 3 or less. 2 of the target player sacks a creature and you gain life if you have a big dude. I mean, I had literally just all this removal, and the whole deck was consistent. It had a whole bunch of the same kind of guys. It had a bunch of Afterlife. It was extremely aggro. It got there. And it was nuts. And
So
that's why I felt bad.
So we're gonna come around Dakota, and he's gonna be like, "Event 2 sucked. I got nothing good."
Actually, you're going to be surprised.
Okay, good.
Because we have a tiny side story when me and him played between rounds that made me not feel bad at all. But
Nice.
yeah, that was pretty much how it was for me. The event itself was was fine. Like, I ended up going 2-0 first round, 2-0 second round, and then we split. Because there's no reason for me to be greedy and gamble 3 packs away. But the last guy that I went against was the one Gruul deck that I played, and I got mana screwed game 1 and flooded game 2. And I'm like, God, I'm glad I wasn't greedy. Because I got wrecked.
Yeah.
But those first 2 rounds, oh my God, I felt bad for people. I felt legitimately terrible. The second game of round 2, neither one of us could really get what we needed. I had the Death Cat, which is the 1 for a 1/2. You can give it Death Touch by paying a black. And I had the Soul Bear, the basically Soul Warden, but a bear form. And that's all I had. I had that, removal, and 2 land. I'm like, this is a great hand. I did not draw another creature for 6 turns. He traded the bear with his 2/2 Simic bear, and every time he dropped a creature, I removed it. And I was literally one-ing him with the cat. Just 1 damage, go. He drops a thing, I kill it. My turn, untap, draw. One ya. go, drops the thing. 6 turns of that. 6 turns before I drew an Oligarch, and then started 3-ing him in a turn.
Nice.
Eventually, I literally showed him my hand, and it was 4 removal spells, and he was at 5, and I killed him.
Wow.
I felt really bad.
You should.
Like,
Dirty
he did
ass
not get
man.
to play. He did not get to play Magic that game.
So it sounds like you had a lot of fun in your event too.
In Event 2, I had a lot more fun, and it wasn't just because the deck was insane. It just felt like the first event, my deck felt really clunky and not consistent at all. But in Event 2, it felt like I was almost playing Standard. Like, it felt like I was playing a deck I built. And the people I played were a blast. They were fun. They were nice. We chatted. Even when people were getting their asses kicked by me, we were having fun. Even while I was getting my asses kicked before I won, I was still having fun. Like, Event 2 was definitely more fun, just as a whole.
Nice. RJ, you also played an event too, correct?
Yeah, that's right. My second event, I played Gruul, because I liked, I have a bunch of EDH decks that want Gruul cards. I have a Naya Brawl deck that's going to benefit from a bunch of these cards. So I was like, you know what? Second round of the day, second event of the day, we're just going to play dudes, turn them sideways,
Well,
because that's what I like to do.
Let's be honest. You played girl because you like big butts and you cannot lie.
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I do like
Big
like
old
some
creatures.
big butts. Big
See-
creatures.
See, I was hoping that somebody was going to make a rock reference there. Because he loves to turn things sideways. So
Yeah.
he takes that Gruul creature, he shines it up real nice, he turns that sumbitch sideways, and shoves it right up your Rudy Poo candy ass.
There you go.
Yep. Oh,
I'm just much older than these guys.
oh my gosh, you guys. But yeah, I liked the synergies out of my seeded pack and out of what I pulled, and I basically built a Temur deck, which is red, blue, green, around basically these 5 cards. I picked up the Rhythm of the Night, the Gruul enchantment that gives all of your non-token creatures Riot, which is pretty baller. So you could Riot twice.
I hate that card. I hate it. Hate it. Hate it.
Yep, this card's a
So-
boss.
One thing I want to make note of is that you basically built the same style of deck that I did in the first event.
Mm-hmm.
And
I-
this is the drastic difference. This was what I was talking about with Simic, is that it literally depends on the exact cards that you need, and you pull them. And you
Mhm.
did. You got the Simic and the blue cards to go for that Temur deck, and I didn't. And it's a drastically different experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. Because the other cards that I put in from Simic was I pulled a Hydroid Crassus, and that dude's just large and in charge
So
and gives
good.
Flample. Yep,
So
I got some good stories with this boy. But between some of the Simic cards with their +1/+1 counters, and between Riot from Gruul giving +1/+1 counters, I pulled a Skatewing Spy, which each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. Seems good. Mm-hmm. Yep. A nice dude was Balrak Clan Crusher. You can tap him to remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control to shock something. Really good when you need to plink off Orzhov small dudes.
Wow, that's a good card.
Mm-hmm. And it, again, the +1/+1 counters synergize really well with the rest of what I put together. And he's a 4/4 for 5. So, yeah, he seems pretty good. But then the card, probably the MVP card of the deck, was Biogenic Upgrade. 4 colorless, 2 green sorcery distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures. Then double the number of +1/+1 counters on those creatures.
Yeah, I got that too, and I never got a chance to use it.
That's unfortunate. So I will share one of the fun stories that happened. So round 2, I was playing against a Bant deck, and he had the green gate crasher thing, like the 2/2 that gets +1/+1 for each gate you control, and if you have 2 or more gates, he has Vigilance and Trampled. Card's real good. We were just kind of trading back and forth. And I won game 1 thanks to Active Treason, which I also pulled, which was real nice.
Best card in the whole set for sealed. Best card ever made.
That card's pretty damn good. It's pretty good in general.
The other one is there's a Rakdos one. I think it's like 1 red, 1 black, 1 colorless. Grab a creature out of your opponent's graveyard, put it into play, give it +2 in haste, and then sack it into turn. That wrecked me so many times.
Oh my god, that's also really good.
I got hit in the face by that thing. It's not fun.
Especially when they grab my creature that has like Afterlife 3 or something, so they got the freaking tokens from it too.
Oh, that's so gnarly. So the play that happened, I had this Hydroid Crassus on 5 because I paid 4 X is equal to 4 into him, and I gave him the +1/+1 from Rhythm of the Night, and my opponent was at 16. And he had 2 really big guys on the ground, but he didn't want to overcommit on the attack, so he attacked with one of them. It wasn't lethal, so I took it, and I went down to 3. He was tapped out, and he's at 16. I untap, draw a card, I cast Biogenic Upgrade, give my Hydroid Crassus up to 8 counters, and then it doubles it, so it puts him to 16, and then I one-shot him.
That's wrong. That's dirty.
That's not okay.
It felt so right. You have no idea. You would have felt so right.
Listen, I killed somebody with their own Rakdos. I understand this feeling. That was a freaking hell of a play, and I think it's hilarious that you got to do it.
16 damage with 1 creature in 1 turn is mighty strong. That's a bomb.
God, that Crassus is upsettingly good.
I think they definitely saw the power in this card and were like, yeah, we need to add this sentence round down each time. I'm like, that's fair, but even still, is a real good card.
As you cannot nerf it.
And round 1, it was kind of the same thing. We were just kind of trading back and forth, and this is the first game of that same round, but Active Treason, I stole that silly Sphinx that gives all of your opponent's creatures -1, -0. It's like, this card's really obnoxious. I used Active Treason on that, so all my dudes got back up to normal strength plus 3 power from that guy, and I was like, swing for lethal? And he's like, yep, that'll do.
And I believe it's a knight, actually.
Oh.
It's the guy on top of the griffin-like thing. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a knight.
Yeah. Yep. So, overall, I definitely I had a lot more fun my second round. I felt like I had more options and a little bit more play, and I just felt a little bit more comfortable because I had larger creatures that stick around, because big creatures just kind of win you games.
They really do.
Yeah. And I had some pretty good pieces of removal, and yeah, it just felt right, and it felt good. But I will agree that if you don't pull the specific adapt cards that you need out of Simic, it can kind of fall flat on its face. Like if I didn't pull that guy that gives all of your guys with +1/+1 counters, gives them flying, I probably would have splashed a different color at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing more terrifying than like Gruul just on its own right now, but give Gruul flying.
Yep.
Like, I don't want flying berserkers coming at my face.
Oh yeah, it's it feels bad. So yeah, so that was my experience for round 2. Go Grohl.
What did you do in event 2 there, Dakota?
For Event 2, I played some Orzhov, and to build up on the initial Caleb story, we exchanged packs, and for the first, or we exchanged pre-release sets, and for the first few packs, it was looking pretty bad. I didn't really get hardly anything in white or black, but with the fourth and I think fifth pack, I opened up. It was, what are they called, Caleb?
Teysa and Kaya's Wrath.
Yep. And
Wow.
yeah, that pretty well saved it because even though I only got to play the two in combination once, I think, on their own, they were both just, the ability to clear the board was so nice compared to Simic, where it was just kind of ride it out and hope you can mutate something big enough to deal with whatever they have.
Yeah, do not underestimate any forecasting cost Wrath. I mean, there's a reason why Damnation and Wrath of God and Day of Judgment are never going to get reprinted.
Yep.
And with the heal too, oh, it was so. And then Taya, however you pronounce her, she basically was, whenever she was on the board, she just took all the pressure off the rest of my board because they just focused on getting her out, spending whatever removal they had, even if I, truth be told, didn't hardly have any afterlife cards. I think I had like 4 or 5 in total.
Yeah,
But just the
she's like a planeswalker. You just have to deal with her.
Which usually let me take a turn or two to just build up and just set up a board that they eventually couldn't deal with, especially after they used some of their removal to deal with. But in general, I really liked Orzhov. Black and white are the colors that got me into the game whenever I first started playing. Even though it's not my most played color combination, the synergies you got from it, being able to sustain your board with Afterlife was really, really nice. And the flying gave a lot more options. And it just felt like I wasn't constantly under pressure and just hoping that they wouldn't draw their removal or wouldn't have just these big bombs that I couldn't deal with. Speaking of bombs, I also got a number of guild gates and got the Gate Colossus with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got more to talk about too on him. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Now, I only saw him once, and that was actually against Caleb in a match between our match. And oh my god, he was so nice.
He pulled all the hate from your whole board into one dude because I was like, I have to murder that. I have to murder it now.
Mm-hmm. Because it's just an 8/8 that gets progressively cheaper as you get more gates out. And you know.
Comes back.
Exactly. And every time he comes back, you've got another gate, so he's just a bit cheaper. So, yeah, it was a really fun deck. Got to play some different things. I did play one Gruul and one Orzhov, but then I also played the White-Blue guild.
Azorius.
And that was pretty... Yes.
Greatest guild ever. Well, when they give them control cards.
Right.
Outside of, like, all of the other ones, like, it's better than Simic.
Yeah, I don't think it's really good in draft, or in sealed.
I noticed that almost no one was playing Azorius at either event.
Yeah, it is more weaker, although it does have the most evasion. You do have the most flyers in those two colors, and you can really do well if you can get some control aspects with it. Time your counter spells right, since you're probably only going to have 2 or 3 of them, and make sure you don't just throw away your flyers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in my first event when I played Orzhov, I splashed blue for a couple efficient flyers, and I was also lucky enough to pull a Dovin. So I was like, well, I'm splashing blue, so might as well. So yeah, I could definitely attest to the flyers there.
And speaking of Dovin, just to do a little self-promoting here, 8 o'clock tomorrow on Sunday, there will be a deck tech coming out. It is a Dovin Aggro Flyers deck that I made. Definitely worth watching. It was very fun to make the deck, and it played very well. I think I went 4-1 or 5-1, and
nice.
Just had a blast playing it too, which is so weird for me because you don't turn things sideways in Azorius.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely, guys, check that out. In my second event, so instead of doing a pre-release, I used the promo card that came in the pre-release packs. Mm-hmm. Originally, I thought it was going to be for a sealed event on Magic Arena, but it is not. It is for a competitive traditional draft, which is the 2 out of 3 format, which you can tell I'm an arena player. I like best of 1. I do not like 2 out of 3. I just don't have the patience. I don't have the time. I lose focus way too easy. I'm like a goddamn squirrel sometimes. I'm just it's hard to focus on 2 out of 3 when I'm not physically there at a card shop. Just give me my Hearthstone in Magic form.
Well, and I actually have something to touch on for that too. When you were talking earlier about your first event, you said it was you said it was up to 7 matches.
So how they do their matches is you go to 7 wins or 3 losses.
Okay. So I guess I can see that. So I was kind of under the impression when we were chatting earlier that it was very similar to how our paper ones were, which is like 3, maybe 4 rounds. But now knowing that it is best of 1, but up to 7 rounds, that makes me feel less bad about it. Like, that feels like a huge pro to me.
Yeah, it feels about the same. And in fact, we do have some news from WotC. They are going to start doing something that they call quick seal and quick drafts at local game stores, which are going to be best of 1 formats. They're pretty much the arena best of 1 format though. So there will be 7 rounds. The rounds will last like 35 minutes instead of an hour, and it will be more round robinish, more, they're testing it in a couple markets, and they've had really good feedback on it so far. So your local game store may end up talking about quick drafts instead of traditional drafts. We'll see what the future holds on that. Right now it's just mainly in testing, but it definitely something I would be interested in as a person who is older and doesn't have as much time as some of the younger kids do, and who has a bedtime. Hate to say it, but I do.
Yeah, and actually to touch on that, we're going to try to be drafting this new set within the next couple of weeks. We may try one of the drafts that way and see how it runs.
Yeah, because when you really think about it, when you're drafting, how many cards are you putting in from your sideboard? I think the most I've ever done is bring in like 3 cards, and then half the time you don't even see them because your deck's, still a 40 card deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best of one focuses more on the deck building because you don't have the crutch of a sideboard.
I can see that.
But it has a disadvantage if you get mana fucked, you are fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
you don't get to redeem yourself
Yeah,
in the
so
next game. So I can definitely see a lot of pros and cons. I would be very interested in testing it and seeing what
Yep.
we find.
yeah, I think that's what a lot of what needs to be done is testing, and that's the one thing WotC needs to not shrink on is testing. So in my draft that I did, that's where I got I drafted like 6 gates, 2 Orzhov, 2
What?
of the tap for any color gates, and now I played white, black, red, so I played Mardu, and then 2 Rakdos gates. I put gates as a priority. Once I hit that gate Colossus, gates became a priority. So I drafted the gate Colossus, I drafted the angel that gives you life, and I drafted the red blow up everything, do damage. I had a good time in that draft. I think I also got a diva, which I think she is incredibly powerful. She is a 1 black, 1 red, 1 colorless for a 2/2. All your other creatures get +1/+0, and whenever a non-token creature dies, she deals a damage to anything. Very solid character, especially in draft. And I'll tell you, the MVP of that deck was not the Gate Colossus, although he did win me, the games I won. It was that stupid old Yeller Hound, man. I hate to sacrifice him.
Did not see one of those
Oh my
in
goodness.
any game, across the table or in my pods. None of those were seen.
He slowed down the early Orzhov decks. He made the red decks, use multiple burn spells to kill something. And he did work. And I love the fact that his ability is triggered off of 1 colorless and not 1 white.
What is the card that you were talking about?
So he cost 1 white for a 1/3 defender. You may pay a colorless and sack him to give another creature indestructible until end of turn.
The goodest boy.
Yep.
He is the best boy.
He's the old Yella. And yeah, multiple times he saved my Gate Colossus. Multiple times he saved, my Angel to hit him in the face again with 3 more damage. A lot of times I would block with the Angel and block with him, and then sack him to keep the Angel alive, but still count the other creature as blocked. So that way he saved me life and kept my Angel around. So good, 100%. He is a high priority pick in draft, in my opinion.
I will definitely be keeping an eye out on him when we're drafting, because, like I said, I did not get to see a single one of him even get played today. So I am very curious to see how he's going to run. I also just need more than 0 for my decks.
Yeah, he was fun. Well, I think that about... let's go ahead and give away a traditional competitive draft on Arena. What do you guys think?
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Sweet. So I'm going to say out this code. You can redeem it either at mgtarena.com, or if you have Arena installed, go to store, and then up at the top it'll say redeem code, and just type in this code exactly as it said. It is case sensitive. The code is a capital S as in Sam, a capital L as in Libby, a lowercase b as in boy, dash, capital K as in Kelly, 8, lowercase w as in Walter, 6, dash, lowercase w as in Walter, lowercase t as in Terry, and a capital H as in Henry. So whoever types that in first will get a free competitive draft on a Magic Arena, and it'll give you a token and let you jump right into a draft. It will be the best of 3 draft, and it is fun and good prizes. Even if you don't win a single game, you still are getting 4 packs for free. If you win a couple games, you'll get a bunch more packs, and you'll get gems as their prize pool. Definitely worth running.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good stuff.
All right, let's open up the floor to all the fun stuff. Any interactions you guys want to talk about or anything else?
I'm trying to think of a really crappy interaction that I had today, and I think it was just any time that I got on the back foot with mana, I could not recover.
Mm-hmm.
That is the age-old problem with Magic, and why games like Keyforge and Hearthstone are so popular, is because you can't get screwed. Where Magic will always have that arcane mechanic of mana flood or mana screw.
And I think that I've been playing Magic for a very long time, obviously not as long as you, but I noticed that with this set in particular, it felt more prominent. It felt more of, if you miss a land drop, you are screwed.
Oh yeah, you do not want to miss a land drop. And if you... So the one nice thing about Simic is, because you have some ramp in there, you can recover a little easier.
Agreed. What you have?
I think. Well, one thing that I really like about this set is I have a Ravnica cube, and it features cards from only Ravnica blocks, and I'm super excited to finally add in the second half of the guilds from this newest set into the cube.
That's awesome. I want to play that.
I know, right?
Only thing better for me would be Tempest, because, well, I would marry Tempest if I could marry a card set.
Okay, that's a little weird, not gonna lie. You keep that to yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
It's love.
All right. I think one of the things that I was discussing with Dakota on the way back was there's one of the principles that I stick to with the cube is you have to keep synergy and you have to keep balance. So I'm thinking in just the terms of Ravnica Allegiance. Out of these 5 guilds that we got to play with at this pre-release, I'd like to kind of go around and get everybody's brief thoughts on what your predictions were for the best guilds going into the event, and then what you thought of the guilds as you played them, learned some of the mechanics, saw a bunch of the cards, and then basically afterwards. So I guess I'll start. I really thought that Orzhov was super strong for a lot of the reasons that I had mentioned earlier. Afterlife with a lot of removal backup, a board wipe, specific interactions with that 6-drop enchantment, Teysa herself, even Kaya, if you were lucky enough to get one of her and get to ultimate with her. I thought that was going to be one of the best guilds going into it, followed very closely by Gruul with Riot, and then and then I guess Simic, then Rakdos, and then Azorius. So those are kind of my opinions going into the event. I guess Caleb, what were your thoughts in your research?
Honestly, I was the most excited about both Orzhov and Gruul. From the spoilers, from seeing what was out there, those two were my top picks. I thought Orzhov has pure synergy to it, and Gruul is just terrifying. Like, it had exactly what it needed. I also thought Simic was going to be next, and then Rakdos and Azorius for this sort of format. I was blown away by how good Rakdos was. That was the biggest shock of today for me, was seeing that Simic was actually definitely a rung down, and Rakdos was fighting for top tier.
Stealing my thunder.
One thing that everybody will notice is that none of us are talking about how good Azorius was.
Oh, that's because we haven't got to me yet.
But well, yeah, that's fair. But even you didn't play Azorius in Sealed.
I splashed it.
That's fair. I think everybody tried to splash it, and it definitely works as a splash. But I think that like what people chose and what we were seeing was definitely telling about how strong the guilds were. We saw a ton of Orzhov, we saw a ton of Gruul, and a ton of Rakdos. And man, it was a fight all around. What about you, Dakota? What were your thoughts?
Well, going in, I was really excited about Orzhov, and because for the longest time I played red-green, just straight face aggro, Gruul was kind of on my radar. But again, just like you guys, Rakdos kind of came out of left field for me. By the end of it, I was kind of wishing that I'd given them a shot. But yeah, Orzhov pretty well lived up to my expectations for it. It seems like if you can get a foothold pretty early on and get those afterlife triggers, then you're in a pretty good spot. It's pretty hard for most of the other guilds to deal with a lot of flying. Gruul was definitely as beat down, up in your face as I had anticipated. And I'll probably be having nightmares about my face just getting wrecked by just rioters for a few nights. But yeah, Rakdos. Oh my god, seeing some of that stuff and the shenanigans that they can just pull off. Oh, it was good.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. Oh my gosh, yeah. Crimson, I know you didn't play a sealed event like we did, or at least yeah, you didn't play the same sealed event we did, and you completely did a different style. But I got honestly the same question: what were, how did it? What were your expectations, and how did it compare?
Well, yeah, doing both a sealed and a draft instead of two sealeds. I will say, going into it, I expected Orzhov to be strong and Gruul to be strong, much like you guys did. I was a little surprised. Orzhov, to me, felt... Now, I did a lot more sealeds and drafts because, well, I could because I was on Arena. But I'm just talking, I was just talking about the two that I did, that I showcased. But Orzhov ended up going lower for me because they are very go wide, and it just felt like unless you got some of the good mythics like the Angel, some of the big bombs, they didn't feel like they had a ton of really strong creatures. Their creatures felt very weak or fragile, and I think they're designed that way because of the afterlife. But if you don't get a lot of the afterlife creatures, it does feel a little snowbally. So I was surprised at that. Gruul was as good as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I had no illusions of grandeur that solid big butt aggro wasn't going to be strong in any of limited format. The surprises for me was Rakdos. Wow, Rakdos came out of nowhere. They were not on my radar. I did not expect them to be as good as they were, and most of the games I lost were to Rakdos. The other one was Azorius. Now, I do not think Azorius was a good guild to pick main, like the Precon, But I think if you were playing Simic or you were playing Rakdos, Azorius was, or not Rakdos, Simic, I think Azorius was a great side load into. Their flyers are strong. If you ended up getting a high alert, I think that made your deck build itself. The high alert card, which is an uncommon, so you will generally see it in a draft. And I think in a draft, it's a priority pick. In a sealed, if you get it in your sealed, it's worth splashing in the white for it. If you're already in a blue color or a white color, slashing in the blue. The other part is those knights, those 2/5s that are unblockable with vigilance. There's a lot of solid creatures with Azorius, which is abnormal. Usually you go that for the control route, but they definitely felt like they had some strong creatures as long as they weren't your main guild. So those were the big surprises for me. And I thoroughly enjoyed playing all the guilds because I have played most of the guilds now in a format. I'm excited for the direction Magic is going right now with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I agree.
Mm,
I actually have a question for everybody.
Do you?
Yeah, man.
What was your MVP card? And and what was your favorite card that you got to play?
That doggo.
Just doggo across the board?
Well, I think my favorite card to play was the Ooze. That Ooze, you drop that Ooze, if they didn't have removal, they conceded.
Damn.
Tell people what the Ooze does. It costs 3 colorless, 2 green. It is a 2/2. When it comes into play, put a 2/2 Ooze into play. At the end of your turn, all Oozes get +1/+1 counters. And then you can pay 3 green and a colorless to create another 2/2 Ooze.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, it's a multiplier like crazy.
That is ridiculous.
And I cannot wait to make a standard deck where I quasi-duplicated a whole bunch.
What a sicko.
Yeah, I'm going to ooze it up, man.
Oh, that's dirty.
Ugh.
RJ, what was your favorite card and MVP?
I think my favorite card is definitely that silly Hydroid Crassus, because who doesn't like Jellyfish Hydra Beast?
And one-shotting someone from 16 with it?
Yep, totally. Yeah, no, he just fits. He fits on curve. Kind of. Well, yeah. That's a lie. He's 2 under curve for your converted mana cost, but
He is a curve.
He is his own curve.
Yeah, he is his own curve, but he has flying, he has trample, he gives you card draw, he gives you life, and he's just a huge body that they kind of have to deal with. He was my favorite card, and I think the MVP was actually the biogenic upgrade, because on one occasion I dumped all of the tokens on the Crassus and then turned them into 16 power and one-shotted somebody. On another occasion, I had 3 creatures, gave them all +1/+1 counters, then they all got basically +2/+2, and they all had fairly relevant abilities. One of them had Menace, one of them was the guy that you pay a green and 3 to give him an additional +2/+2, and then I think it was the one, some other red guy, but basically giving all your dudes +2/+2 in a limited environment. Especially in an environment where strength matters for the removal spells, like the white removal for 4 power or above, or the gruesome demise for exile for 3 power or below. Strength matters in this format. So kind of getting them to the sweet spot, and this is like, here's 3 dudes that are +2/+2 forever. Here, deal with it.
That's pretty strong.
Yep, definitely. And again, those are both Simic-oriented cards, so it's like, most interesting. But yeah.
Must be nice to get good Simic cards in a sealed event. Speaking to
hate-
someone who knows my pain,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
what were you gonna say, RJ?
Don't hate the player, hate the cards.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, dude, Simic was fine for me.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
had
funny,
a Chrysos too.
and I think that may have been it. Like, you had the biogenic upgrade, you had the Crassus. Like, that feels like if you get either or both of those, you're gonna have an okay time. But like, I was watching RJ open that second kit, and I'm like, good God, you got better Simic cards out of the Gruul kit than I did in Simic. So it's funny that we were split. Two of you guys did great with Simic, and two of us just got hosed.
Mm-hmm.
But
Now,
speaking to, go ahead.
well, to be fair, I did go 1 and 2 for both of my events, but I felt like almost all of them I did go to a game 3, so I was winning games, someplace in there, but yeah.
And speaking to the format itself, like, that's part of it. In a draft, I think Simic is going to be fantastic because you're going to get the nuts and bolts of the things that you need. But in sealed, it's like, man, if you whiff on that seeded pack or don't make up for it in your other 5, you're going to have a bad time. But I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast for that. And I think Simic is going to be strong in constructed. I think they're going to be great in draft, where some of the other ones shined really well in sealed. I think they're also going to shine really well in that, but I think it'll even out in draft and constructed for all 5 guilds.
Mm-hmm.
But it is funny that there's 4 of us and 2 had a good time with Simic and 2 didn't.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, interesting. Very good. Yeah.
I guess Crassus is the game changer.
Yep.
You damn right he is. He's a
God.
goddamn beastie jellyfish.
Half jellyfish, half hydra, half beast.
All mutant.
All stingers.
All stingers. Dakota, what was your MVP? What was your favorite card?
Well, for my MVP, it would probably have to be 10th District. Just out of nowhere. The fact that it has Vigilance, 2/3, pretty alright body, and then you can untap another target creature you control after it, just allowed me to pull off creature abilities so many times throughout the event and just make the most of those few creatures that had big sort of abilities. And it was pretty consistent throughout the whole day, just getting to be able to use that and make the most of what I have on. And then favorite card was probably Archway Angel, just because there were a few games where I had some gates out and was able to throw her out and delay getting just absolutely wrecked by like a turn or two.
Yeah, 2 life per gate is nothing to laugh at.
No, it really isn't.
Especially when you get like 6 gates.
Good God.
I can go one up. My least favorite card to play against was that stupid circle card that taps a non-flying creature. Yes, I did find out it is non-flying. That damn card beat me every time I played against it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, in sealed, that card's broken.
That's fair.
I mean, tap a creature, draw a card? Fuck off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. For me, my MVP is actually a split between 2 cards because they both won me pretty much the same games. And that was Sharkdo Crab and Active Treason. Those 2 won me almost every game in that first run, and it's exactly what it needed to be. Also, being able to steal somebody's Rakdos and kill them with it. I mean, that's just going to go down in fucking history, but still.
Was Baby Shark playing in your mind every time you played Sharkdo Crab?
No, because Baby Shark sucks. Fuck Baby Shark. This is a Sharkdo Crab.
Thank you.
Favorite card? That's actually really tough. I'm actually gonna go with the Simic card. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's like the most nothing card.
What?
I know.
This is heresy.
It feels like heresy. My favorite card, I think, was Growth Spiral of all freaking cards to play.
Love that card.
I got so much value off of it, but it was honestly, it was the satisfaction of it. It was, I have 3 lands in my hand. I go Forest, I go Island, Growth Spiral, draw a card, play a Simic Gate, or play a Gruul Gate. I cannot explain how satisfying that is, even though it sounds so small, but just that synergy and literally a combo inside of its own card. It felt amazing. And being able to get above curve, ramp, replace itself against a lot of these decks, it definitely was able to put me over when I may have fallen behind. And I think that was probably my favorite card that I played.
Nice.
It's a worthy
I can
card.
definitely. Oh, go ahead.
It's a worthy card, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I can attest to its power. I had my second event, round 3 opponent, played that on turn 2, because it's also an instant, right?
Oh, yeah.
So at the end of my turn, he played it, got up to 3 lands on his, and then he untaps, plays another land, so now he's on 4 lands, and then I think he drops that stupid Sharkdo Crab. I'm like,
Yep.
well, that took a drastic turn. Forget this guy.
Did
Yeah,
anybody
ahead.
get to see a foil version of that card? Because that is one of the few cards that I would like to see in foil.
I did not.
It's a beautiful looking card.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, I didn't actually see a ton of foils today. It was kind of surprising.
Oh, that's a shame.
I will say, to piggyback off of what Crimson was saying, my least favorite card to play against was anything with Afterlife.
Yeah.
To be perfectly freaking honest, like, I got my shit kicked in so many times by Orzhov today. I was just like, man, I don't want to see this unless I'm playing it.
Yep, I can. Orzhov. Yeah, I think my least favorite card was Sharkdo Crab. Playing against. Again, my round 3 opponent basically just locked me down 2 games with that because he also had that Ascendancy enchantment in Simic where you can pay a green, a blue, and a 1, tap it and put a +1/+1 counter on something. But the way that Adapt reads, whenever it gets a +1/+1 counter, you get the effect again. So if basically for 3 mana, he gets to reuse the ice ability on the Sharkdo Crab. So I was like, that's how this works? That's so stupid.
Yep.
Yeah, getting locked down by that combo sounds just degenerate.
Yeah, it's and I don't think the enchantment taps because it's an enchantment, so you can do it more than once.
Yep.
Or
That's bad.
you could just lock down a creature permanently until you get 20 freaking +1/+1 counters and then win the game with Ascendancy, right? Because you never attacked.
Well, and the interesting thing is that since they don't untap on their next upkeep, you can do it at instant speed, which is how I used my Sharkdo Crab a lot of times, was I would wait for them to move to combat, tap down their threat. Now I get 3 combat phases without that creature. Their current one, mine, and their next turn.
Yep.
So you can effectively, with that combo, lock down an entire board permanently, as long as it's a certain number of creatures, or you can just start rotating them out. Like, that is disgusting. I want to do it. Dakota, did you have anything that was super degenerate that you hated seeing?
Oh yes. Oh yes. RJ and I
Everything.
talked about this. Rhythm of the Wild.
Yep.
The rhythm is gonna
Yep.
get you.
Oh my god. One colorless, red, green, can't counter creature spells, and everything has riot. Everything.
That
Just
card is just so strong.
And now you know why every control deck I run now has 10 board wipes. Because I can't counter them.
You're running just 5-color board wipes.
No,
That's the deck. The deck is just 5 colors and it's nothing but board wipes.
there's 3 really good ones in standard right now.
Yeah. Thanks to Kaya's Wrath, I feel like we needed that. We really did. Because Gruul it just came out of the gate fucking swinging. And with Rakdos nipping on its heels, like, holy crap, aggro is back, and it is back with a vengeance.
Yeah, I think they went a little too safe on control because they were worried about Teferi being in with Azorius, but I think they need that control to control aggro, and we might not have enough.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how control fares now. I think that in constructed, I think it's going to be totally fine. I mean, you've got Teferi, you've got all these board wipes, you got Settle, you've got tons of great options.
Ritual of Soot.
Ritual of Soot.
What's destroying control in standard right now is burn.
Yeah,
Because-
I feel like Burn.
Let's be honest, the critics card, which can we give a
Skew the critics.
huge shout out to Popper? Holy crap.
No crap. Now we have 3 lightning bolts.
Chain lightning too, I think, right? That's common.
Yeah, so we've got lightning bolt, skewer the critics, chain lightning, and I think that's it for 1-costers.
Yeah.
That's still, but that's
That's too
9.
much.
That's 9 lightning bolts.
Yeah, it's too much. And that card, just between light up the stage, those cards, controls in a hard spot. It can deal with Gruul with all the board wipes, but it cannot deal with the amount of damage a burn deck puts out.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I think that, and it's funny because, like we were saying, we're so surprised by Rakdos, and we shouldn't have been, really. Like, when you really look at where Rakdos is right now, when you look at those cards, when you look at them just on paper, they're great.
Oh yeah.
But I think I kind of tricked myself because I've never taken Rakdos seriously. It was always a gimmick. From first Ravnica, and I didn't play really at all during the second Ravnica block, but I've played with those cards since then, and I'm like, Rakdos is a joke.
Spectacle is no joke.
Spectacle is no joke, and I'm just glad that I did not see that fucking demon at all today.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I haven't seen him either, thankfully.
I hope I never see him, because
Nightmare fuel.
Right?
Vagina face.
Their eyes. Every time I cast that demon, I'm gonna scream that.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we all had a blast at our events, whether it was at home or in a shop.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, if anybody else has any final notes before we close it out?
Ooh, I have a question for you guys who've been playing.
Yeah.
How do you think the guilds that were released today are going to play with the guilds that were released in the last Ravnica?
I think you'll see a lot of 3-color decks in the coming weeks.
I agree. I think that you're going to see the shards come back, which is like Esper and Jund and a lot of things like that. And me and Andrew have talked in great detail of our fear of Jund now.
I think the biggest thing people have to fear right now is going to be Jund. Because, let's be honest, Gagari is the number 1 deck out there right now before this set came out. And
now it just got 10 times better.
Yeah, adding in the Shocklands, adding in, let's be honest, a fucking lightning bolt.
Yep.
I think Jund
That
is
demon.
gonna be something to fear.
I am actually like, we've been talking about getting back into standard and doing all this stuff and everything, and I'm like, oh my god, I actually am fearful of getting back into standard because of Jund right now. I think every other type of deck I can fare with, but I feel like since we haven't seen Jund in so long, and now that Golgari is the top deck and Rakdos is just running rampant, and again, it's a dark horse. Nobody's really looking at Rakdos. So when you combine those, you have everything you need to make just the most degenerate, oppressive deck right now.
Yeah, and in the coming weeks, I will be doing a deck tech for a Jund deck. I have been brewing inside my head that deals with that 2/2 haster for 2 is super strong. Theater is really good. Assassin's Trophy is still broken.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we have Bedevil now, which just makes everything even better.
And having Angrith and Veraska together could end up just pushing it over.
I think so too. I personally think that you're going to see a ton of 3-color decks, just like Crimson said. I also think that we are going to see some of the best diversity in decks in ages, because now we have 10 guilds and however many shards for the 3 colors, and every one of those decks is going to play differently, from the 10 guilds to the shard decks. That's a lot of different playstyles, a lot of different archetypes, a lot of different strategies, and I'm excited to see that. I really am.
And this goes back to my old gripe. I believe that those Shocklands should be in every core set, period.
Yep, they should be the new gold standard for lands for every standard cycle.
Yep, you can have your offshoot cycles in your blocks, but I think core sets should always have, and they are named, they're not called like Orzhov, Guild Hall.
Yeah.
They're Godless Shrine. It is a neutral name. They could easily do it, and they have not. And I think that is one of their biggest mistakes, and I hope they see this with this standard and how many people have influxed back into the game. People go, oh, well, we're going back to Ravnica. Why? Well, we're going back there because they have the best dualies in the game. And if they put those into the core sets, they would see an uptick in customers, period.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because again, I played in the original Ravnica block, and that was when I loved Magic. Like, that was when I first got the real taste of what Magic could be.
Yeah, before then,
part of it was mana base.
Yeah, before then we had to play with lands that did damage to us every time we tapped them.
Fucking pain lands.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Pain lands. Some of the worst lands ever made now. Oh god.
Yeah, when you tap them for a color, they did a point of damage to you.
But
yeah,
why?
They were dual color. They tapped. They had no land type, so it was just land. So you couldn't fetch them. They weren't, plain swamp or whatever. And they said tap for a colorless or tap to add a black or a white and take a damage.
Yep.
Trash. They're trash cards. But
I'd still use them because we didn't have anything better other than real dualies, which were $10 a pop, and that was too expensive to spend on land. Fuck off.
Well, and what you were saying about that Ravnica basically brings all the boys to the yard, and damn right.
Damn.
But I think that Ravnica has kind of been their cash cow, to put it that way, is that Ravnica can pull in old players and people who haven't played in a long time and people who just have been taking a break, because it brings so much to the table. But being able to play with their old Shocklands that they spent half a fortune on back in the day when they were, $15, $20 a pop in the first Ravnica set.
Mm-hmm.
People want to come back to that style of format. People want to come back to that nostalgia, but also to be able to use those cards again.
Yeah, and let's be honest. How many people bought boxes of M19? M19 was a very low-selling set.
Because it sucked. The only
Because
good cards were mythics.
there was no land cycle in M19.
No, there wasn't. And with them printing Crucible Worlds in it, I think that would have been a great time for them to be like, hey, by the way, we're printing all 10 Shocklands in it.
And I understand why they didn't, because they knew Ravnica was coming out.
True. But also, if you look at M19, they also put in cards from, Ixalan.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you reprinting a card that came out 6 months ago? It's still in Standard.
Because core sets last for 2 years instead of 1.
See, that makes sense. But also, where's the Shockland?
Yep. All right, well, this was an excellent dive into pre-releases and events that you can participate at your local game store. Make sure to support your local game store. I know Arena's awesome, but if you got a good LGS...
It sucks. It's not good. It's bad.
Oh, Arena is amazing. Don't listen to him.
Also, we skipped RJ. RJ didn't give his take on 10 guilds being in print.
What you got, RJ?
Honestly, a lot of it's already been said. I'm kind of thinking outside of the box here. I'm thinking of my Ravnica cube and just again more of the diversity that can go in there. I like how all of the mechanics for a single guild all across the board feel really synergistic to each other. But they also give a lot of play where you can work with other guilds and create a 3-color deck, because that's usually how things play out in the cube. If you don't, most of the time, if you try to get a huge pick a faction and go with it, that's fine, but again, you'll always end up splashing for a 3rd color. So I really like it in that aspect. Yeah, and really just to echo the diversity of where Magic is right now. And yeah, honestly, a lot of it has already been said, and then been said really well. So yeah, I'm excited.
Is everyone excited to see what's in the next set?
Yes.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Better get Undermine.
I am ready for Undermine. I am ready to see what the other Planeswalkers are going to be, because we only have 5 right now.
That means next set, all the mythics are pretty much Planeswalkers.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering, is how they're really going to run with that. And if they're going to give a Planeswalker to every guild.
They should.
They should. I think that would be really cool if we got to see that. We also get to see the conclusion of the Nicol Bolas storyline.
Yeah.
Which will be very interesting.
Are we going to see Nicol Bolas in the next one?
I believe we are. They have announced that this will be the final confrontation between the Guild Pact and Bolas. So this is going to be the last time we see either several of these Planeswalkers, or Bolas, or maybe even both.
Sounds good to me. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and wrap up with saying make sure you support your local LGS if you got a good one. Very important. It keeps the game going. If you have a shitty one or you just live too far away,
then fuck them.
Arena is a very good option. I highly recommend Arena. I know it's polarizing whether people like it or dislike it, but if you try it and you don't like it, don't continue to play, but give it a try at least. It is a wonderful way to play Magic when you can sit at home in your skivvies.
Fair point.
Uh-huh.
Thank you guys for watching, and make sure you check out mediocregamers.com for all your video and podcast needs. I'm Crimson.
I'm Caleb.
I'm RJ.
I'm Dakota.
Okay, this time the song didn't play. Oh, we'll cut it off here.